All right, everybody ready to do our final assembly? We are on page 34 of the instructions. You want to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance for assembling all of it, okay? And I would probably open up my seams. So press your seams open from the back as you go. It just helps if you do it as you go. And again, I like to use a really nice hot iron, and I use a block, or like a clapper is what they call it, but a block of wood. Once I warm up my seams and open them, I lay the block on there and let them cool off with the block sitting on it, and it helps me keep those seams open. So let's start with section 1. So section 1, you're going to have your sweet land of liberty. That's what it looks like. You are going to have, and see, I need to kind of piece through here on my piles. Next, you're going to have your pieced blocks. So you can turn them whichever way you would like to turn them, whether you want them to look that way or you want them to look this way. All right, then you have your pie and the watermelon. So these are the first 4 that get put together. And they go right in a row. All right, so you're going to do your 1/4 inch seam between each one of these, and you're going to put them together. Now what I would probably do is I would sew these 2 together. And I have these face the right way, and I would sew these 2 together. And if you look at the back of these, you can kind of see where your batting is. This is your 1/4 inch seam allowance. You're almost stitching right down that line. All right, so I would probably sew those 2 together and these 2 together, open up the seams, and then come back and sew the pieced border to the top of the pie. So that is section 1. All right, let's look at section 2. Section 2 is the flag. All right, and a cake. Then you have a cherry, and you have your flower pot. So you're going to have to sew the cherry and the flower pot together first. All right. Once you sew them together, then you'll sew them to the cake. All right, but you need to do the seam first in order to get it to attach it to the cake. Then once you attach it to the cake, then the flag will fit on top. All right, so you want to do this one first. So again, I'm probably going to pin these, so I know I'm doing this one first. And now I want to go set up my machine and start stitching and sew these together, and then come back and sew the cake and then the flag. And then once you have this section put together and you have this section put together, you'll stitch this section long ways right on this side of the pillow. And when you finish, your pillow should be approximately 16.5 by 16.5 going around right now before we add our borders. All right. So that's where we are for the final assembly. So I'm going to go get my machine running. I'm going to go do my 1/4 inches, and we'll come back and look at this. All right, so here I did the section 1, right? Put these 4 together. So I sewed these 2 together, and I sewed this to the cake. And you can see, opened up the seams in the back. I would definitely take that time and open them up. So now what I need to do is I need to sew this to the flag, right? Then once this is done, I can sew this all the way down that side. So that's basically how I'm assembling and what the instructions say to do to assemble your pillow. All right, so here we go. I have it all sewn together. All right, I did open up all the seams. Again, be very careful ironing on the front. You do have your leather, right? Be careful of your leather when you're ironing. Use some, a cloth or something protective between the iron and the leather, just to, be careful. And let's see. Mine is roughly 16 by 16 and an eighth. So I must have taken just a little bit more than a 1/4 inch, but it went together very nicely. All right, I guess I do have a little bit taller white here because I'll probably trim that so that when I do this border up here, it'll go straight down. I don't know if you can see that on here, but if I take this flag straight across, I will be trimming a little bit of that white off the top there. And I'm going to trim it because I want to make sure I just do a straight stitch when I go to put our borders on. So there's what it looks like. So the next thing is putting our borders on. So let's see. We are going to be on page 35. All right. So you're going to put your left and right borders on first. Those are your short ones. Okay, these are all done in the red. All right, so you can lay them wherever you see fit to put them on. You're going to do the left and right, and then you'll come back and do the top and bottom. So what I would look at is if there was a directional thing. Like our fabric really isn't directional, but let's say you just aesthetically like it going this way instead of that way. Now what you can do with these, because they are quilted a little longer, is figure out where you really want that quilting to start. Do you want it to be a little bit away from the seam? And you would just sew it on here, and then you can look up here and see where you're going to, stop. Or do you want to split the difference and move this down a little bit, move that up a little bit? Because these are going to be long enough for you to do that. And remember, the blue ones you got about a 2-inch play area, but that's it. All right, these you have like, probably around a 2-inch too. So you want to sew the two sides on. So I would place them where I want them, and then when I'm done, then I would cut them straight across. And when you attach your borders, you are going to press the seams towards the inner border. All right, so this seam, you're going to press it all towards the border. All right, when we go and attach these. So that's the next thing that we need to do. Okay, so you can see I added my two side borders first, and then the top and bottom of the inner, right, or inner borders. Next, now I'm going to add our flanges, and again I'll do the same thing. You want to add it on the sides first, so you want to do one on one side and one on the other so that you have enough. Don't do both of these sides out of the same width of fabric, okay? Make sure you do one out of one width and one out of the other width, otherwise you won't have enough to finish. All right, so now I'm going to add my outer borders, or the flange I should say, and again it's the same thing, 1/4 inch seam allowance, and sew it on. Okay, so you can see I put the flange on the pillow now. All right, so you have your inner border and you have your flange on. Design wise it's just going this way and this way quilting, so it's not like you're gonna have everything like totally line up in the corners at all. It's just not going to happen with these designs. All right, but did my best. I don't think it looks that bad. So the next part, basically we're done with the pillow top. Now we want to get to the final assembly. So on page 36, you need to get 2 pieces of the blue fabric. All right, they need to be 13.5 by 22.5, and these are to make our back of the pillow. All right, so we're making an envelope style pillow. So I have my 2 pieces here. So the first thing it tells you to do is take one of the long sides on both of the pieces, all right? And you want to roll it under a 1/4 inch and then turn it under another 1/4 inch and then top stitch it. So here's how I like to do it. So what I do is I run it through the machine and do a 1/4 inch stitch. And that 1/4 inch stitch, when I go over to the ironing board, I just roll it under just a little bit and I iron it. And then I just roll that again and iron it a second time. And I find that when I do that, you're not going to see that stitch. I mean, I did it in white. You're not going to see that white. But it really turns, you know, a really nice 1/4 inch under. Makes it nice and sharp. It makes it easy for me to do what you've done here, which is you've done that top stitch. All right, so you need to do that on both pieces. And once we do that, we'll be back to do the hook it to the front of the pillow in a sense, because we're going to lay it on the front so that we can stitch all the way around and then flip it backwards, you know, inside out, and then it'll be on the back. All right, I want to get ready now to put this together. All right, so I want to be looking at my pillow right side up, and I want to put my back pieces right side down. Okay, and my pieces are a little bit bigger than it told us to cut, and that's just me. I purposely cut them just a little bit bigger. All right, and I want to put them right side down, and I want to put that flange that I created towards the center of the pillow, right? I want to have all the raw edges going all the way around the pillow. Now, the other thing I'm going to tell you to do is I would want to put the top piece under. So this is the top of the pillow, right? See how this is the top? I want to put this piece under and this piece over. So when I flip it later on the back side, it'll be the opposite, and the top will come down over top the bottom piece. So you're not going to be able to slide your hand like from the top of the pillow inside the pillow. You'll have to do it from the bottom side. All right, so that's how I like to do it. Now what I will do is I am going to turn this over. And I'm just going to pin that one side there, because I'm just going to quickly flip it. Boom. Just like that. And you can see like these edges are kind of lined up. It's just that my pillow is too wide. Like my backing is a little too wide. No big deal. I'll trim that off when I'm done. But I like to sew it from this side because I want to sew right the 1/4 inch right on in there. And that's basically right where the batting is not. There's no batting in that seam all the way around, the way that we made our flange. All right, so that's basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to 1/4 inch stitch right inside the pillow all the way around the whole thing, and then I'll trim this extra dark blue off. There's no big deal with that. I'm just going to trim that right on off. And when we're done with that, then we're going to flip it, of course, right side out, and then we'll have one more stitch to do so that we create the real flange, because the pillow insert itself is only 18 by 18, not 22 by 22. The pillow will finish at 22 with this flange. That's why they call that a flange. All right, so I'm going to go now and sew all the way around my pillow, a 1/4 inch in, and then we'll return. Okay, so I want to show you what I did. So I stitched it all around, right, and I flipped it inside out. So when we flipped it inside out, you can see the top now goes over the bottom. in the back, which is what I would rather it do. Then the next thing you're going to do, and you can see I've done it, is you need to stitch in the ditch between the flange border and the inner border all the way around. And I would say just be really careful when you get here where these two meet on both sides. All right, so once you stitch that in, basically you're done. Now you can fit your pillow in there. I have, you know, a decent overhang here. So I kind of made mine 14 and 14 or 14 and a half. So it just gave me a little bit more of a overlap. I just like it to be just a little bit more normally than what Kimberbell says. But this is the pillow. And these are the fabrics that are in our kit here at Sew What. So I hope you enjoyed making your pillow. And by all means, I hope you post your pictures when you're all done. I still have a few threads here or there I see I need to trim off. But the pillow will be on display for a while. Thank you.